Are you interested in real estate investing but not quite sure where to get started? Do you want to get the know-hows on creating ongoing passive income using the buy and hold strategy? Hi, I'm Janice Bowles, licensed realtor and co-founder of B Premier Ventures, a real estate development and consulting firm where we buy and beautify distressed real estate, renovate it, and resell for profit. With over 15 years of investing experience, B Premier has extensive knowledge in rural land development, fix and flips, and rental acquisitions. B Premier's current portfolio consists of properties within Florida and Virginia. Our firm's services includes investor project consulting, project management, and group coaching. For more information, visit our website at bpremierventures.com and schedule a complimentary discovery session or subscribe to our email list. It's free. Follow me on Instagram at Janice Bowles for additional real estate investing tips. B Premier Ventures, we buy and beautify.
Everybody, welcome to today's episode of Let's Do It Talk Show. It's your girl, Ladrine Howard Peterson, the CEO and founder of Do It, delivering on ideas and thoughts. And you know what I do in a nutshell, right? I help to turn dreamers into doers, and I do it from two aspects. I do it from the aspect of career development, resume writing, interview preparation. You having issues on your job or you looking to switch jobs? I am your girl. And then I also do it from a business aspect. You're looking to start a business. You have some ideas and thoughts and you want to bring them into fruition. I'm your girl. You're looking for a marketing plan, a strategy, a business plan. I am your girl. Here at the Let's Do It Talk Show, we were primarily created for entrepreneurs, right? But quickly, we recognize that the entrepreneur is a whole person. So we talk about faith, we talk about finances, we talk about the future, and we talk about family and relationships. Today's episode is super exciting because we are going to be proceeding and finishing up and doubling up on our exciting book launch that started earlier today at 9 a.m. We all grieve differently. We all grieve differently. So we're going to talk about a couple things and we're going to shift it up a little bit. So I have some friends who are with me who are going to help me out. So we're going to be talking about the process, what is grief, and grief comes in many forms, as well as we all grieve differently. So we're going to take a spin on the title of the book and actually go into dialogue. So with me on the show today, I have Miss Erica Greene, who has been wonderful with our book project, and she will introduce herself a little bit later. Latasha Briscoe, my partner in crime. No, my partner in love. We're not doing crime stuff. And then Reverend A. Colette Rice, and I think like you got one more time, and then she will actually have to be a host. And then we have co-pastor Davida Stewart. So you know what I do before I jump into the show? I talk about my weekend. And this weekend was very exciting. I had a lot of fun. So one of the main things was my Apple's birthday. My Amari has turned 12. I can't believe it. He's like a pre-teen. But we went and ate and had fun and just had dialogue with the family. So that's my man. He's growing up and he got his little look. And then also the ladies from Let's Do It Talk Show. We had a photo shoot right here in the studio as part one. And then we went to the studio in Virginia. And when I tell you, we had a ball. Huge shout out to Charlene and the Glam Squad. Like everywhere we went, fixing head, tapping, doing everything. And then, of course, Lindria Dockett. If you don't know who she is, photographer, wonderful. And everything was just beautiful. So we had fun. A lot of you all haven't been in the studio lately, and I've been talking about it. We're going to talk about that. And then, of course, today, our launch. I am so proud of everyone and so happy about this project. I know that it is going to impact and just bless so many people. So let's jump into the show. So I have my guests with me, and they're going to introduce themselves. So first up is Latasha Briscoe.
Good evening. Good evening. Yes, I am Latasha Briscoe, and I like how you corrected that because we are not in crime at all. This is definitely love. And I am the co-visionary and one of the co-authors, and We All Grieve Differently. And I don't want to get too much into my bio. I'll share a little bit more as we get deeper into the conversation.
Absolutely. Absolutely happy to see you. And then next up is, look, my co-host, like I'm playing, is none other than Reverend A. Colette Rice. Reverend Rice, I know you do your little cool thing, but can you just share a little bit of who you are?
Yeah, this is always hard. It's certainly a joy and a pleasure to be with you all. I am the executive pastor at the Mount Eden Baptist Church and always find it a pleasure and a joy to minister in any way possible to God's people. Love Greene, to the moon and back. And Latasha, oh my gosh, just such a wonderful spirit. I'm just grateful to be here. So thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And I see that shirt.
Yeah, I thought we, man.
Next up, we will have, next up, co-pastor Davida Stewart, who I spend most of my Tuesdays with. So welcome to the show. This is your first time being on the show. Definitely will not be your last, but can you share a little bit about you?
This is my first time actually being on the show, but absolutely not my first time viewing the show. I share some of these evenings with you, but I am Davida Stewart, co-pastor of Body of Christ Church. And I just want to say that I am so blessed to have been a part of this project because I've learned so much through just journeying through, the process and thinking about grief and facing some of my own issues, so to speak, with grief. And so I'm just blessed to be here. And I thank you for allowing me to be a part of this awesome project.
Amen. Amen. And last but certainly not least is Miss Erica Greene. So Erica, can you please share a little bit about what you do and who you are to our audience?
Absolutely. And thank you so much, Ladrine and Latasha, for having us. I'm Erica Greene out of Raleigh, North Carolina. I'm the CEO and founder of Shiro Publishing, where we bless and help authors from creation to launch. We are so excited for all of the authors, the visionaries and co-authors of We All Grieve Differently. So we're excited to help them pre-launch today and to talk a little bit more about this project. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. So, Erica, we're going to start off with you, interview you, and then you can jump off and finish doing what you need to do. But it has been a wonderful experience in working with you. And first of all, let me just say this. So, Tasha and I, we are just who we are. So we interviewed publishing companies to determine who we were going to select to work with our people, because we knew that already between the two of us, we had so many ideas and we wanted this to be a different project. And can I tell you, I don't take it lightly, but you all definitely have superseded and did your thing. My throat is hurting right now because of you, but in a great way. You're like, Post, do this. And I'm like, okay. But I love how you, not only as the publisher, but you were the cheerleader throughout the way. Any adjustments, anything that just looked out of order and we said something, you would make it happen like right there. And can't leave out the entire staff. So the entire staff, from the coaching all the way throughout the process, have just been wonderful. So definitely wanted to start off with that to tell you thank you. I know we're still in the process and not done, but you have made this process such a joy and easy in the terms of us having to go back and forth with things. So I appreciate that greatly.
Absolutely. We're here to help and support. And we're so excited for just everything that happened today and what's about to happen for each and every co-author.
Thank you. So let's jump into some questions here. So my first question is, what or who inspired you to start your publishing company?
Oh, great question. So I'm also a vice president in corporate America. I've been an entrepreneur for over a decade, and I've traveled a lot. And I would meet phenomenal women everywhere I went. And for some reason, I always say I'm the conduit, but people would come to me and say, share their stories of triumph, their stories of overcoming, just extraordinary stories. And I'd always say, you need to write a book. And I remember very clearly one day I was in the midst of a conversation and I heard God say, you need to help them. And so I always say that I am the conduit ushering women, especially women, but we do men and women, but we're Shiro because we know that there's so many women who have untapped stories that they need to unleash to the world. So many times we have stories of overcoming and triumphs, and there's so many people who are stuck where we used to be, and we've got to get those stories out to them. And so I love working with women and Shiros because, you know, when you think about pulling off that cape, we all have that cape. We just don't share it at times. And so our company really helps them to birth their stories. We literally, one of our niches is that we help literally from creation to launch, meaning we have a lot of authors that come to us with just a title or a few words on a piece of paper. And our phenomenal team, and hats off to them, we have an exceptional team from our ghostwriters to our book coaches, videographers, graphics designers, marketers behind the scenes, but they help them to conceptualize and develop their book. So they might have a title, but in a month to 2 months, they have a full manuscript. And then we take them through the publishing and marketing process. So we literally hold their hand through the entire thing, but we are literally helping those hidden Shiros to unleash their superpowers to the world.
Great, awesome. And you actually kind of answered my second question, but just in case you have anything else to add, it is Shiro. What's the inspiration behind the name? So anything else you want to add to that?
Yeah, I think, and it's very fitting as we're going into Mother's Day week. But, you know, when you look at how much women do in general, and how much we have to overcome in life. Me personally, my story or my Shiro story 11 years ago, I had open heart surgery. I literally had my heart stopped for 8 hours, 8 hours, no heartbeat, and God brought me back. And while my story might be incredible to me, there's so many people with stories like that, that they really are Shiros. They've been blessed with gifts and talents. They've gone through adversity and extraordinary circumstances, and they've got to share those with the world. And so we literally help those who are afraid and they come to us timid and they know they have a story, but they've procrastinated for years. We help usher the Shiro out of them and get that story out to help others who are still overcoming those same situations.
Awesome, awesome. So in getting started with your publishing company, what was the most challenging aspect?
You know, the most challenging aspect is just making sure that you step out on faith. That's what I tell. I'm also a business and marketing coach. And one of the things I tell everybody is it's taking the first step. Because I heard God say it several times before I activated my faith and started to move forward in it. And when you step forward, He starts to give you the provisions to get it done. So I tell people all the time is just take the first steps. If you hear Him saying that you need to start a business, or these are the people that you are aligned to bless, it's all about taking those steps. You don't need all the money. You don't need all the titles. You don't have to have all the qualifications. All of that will fall into place when you start to take action. So I think in any business, it's just taking the first step, and then things start to come in alignment to have a successful business. And we've been in a successful business for over 6 years, so we're excited.
Awesome, awesome. So my next question for you is, what is your competitive advantage? There are a lot of book publishing companies out now. We interviewed a few of them. But what is it that you do and that you strive on that is your niche that makes you stand out above and beyond in terms of other publishing companies?
Oh, that's a great question. And Kudos to you, Ladrine, because I think everybody should do their research and interview. And we have a lot of our clients that come to us and they say, I've interviewed several companies, but this is the one that I want to go with. And some of the reasons why, when we go back to what we talked about, is just we hold the author's hand from the very start. So, you know, a lot of publishing companies, they want to see you once you have a full manuscript, but we help them to birth that manuscript. So we're working with them from the very start, from the title on. And then we do a lot of compilations. So we work a lot with groups of authors, but we make those compilations seamless. We have book coaching every week for our compilation authors. They really become an integral part of the entire book. And once they finish, they fuse as a unit, meaning they've created new friends, business partners, sisterhoods from that project. So no one feels alone or left out. They're a seamless part of the entire process. And they usually end up joining forces to do things after the book projects just because of that cohesion that we create throughout all of our compilation journeys. But one thing that we really try to do is create autonomous bookpreneurs. So we set you up for success on the back end with the marketing and coaching so that you're making your money back, but you're profitable as soon as your book launches and it hits the social media and the airwaves and you're starting to create those profits. Even if you're coming to us and you're saying it's not about profits, we still want to make sure that it's a successful project and it gets out to your targeted audience. So those are some of the reasons why our authors love Shiro Publishing.
Yep, and I can add a few more to it, but you did a really good job. And again, your website explained everything, and you all stood the test in terms of what went on, and even what I asked for beyond the standard pieces, my creativity. So I thank you for that.
Absolutely.
So, and so the last question that I have for you, for those inspiring authors who are pondering and who have been thinking about writing a book, but still find themselves procrastinating, what motivation or what message or tip would you leave with them?
Absolutely. And I can understand it. Listen, we're all authors. We've been there when we feel that urge to write it, but there's some fear, there's some procrastination. Some authors come to us and it's literally taking them 10 years. So I understand that. But one of the things that I would say is that you've got to carve out the time to write. Having a successful or creating a successful manuscript requires you to create the time and then to free flow write. So one of the things that we've done to make this very easy for you to get your manuscript out within 60 days is on our website, shiropublishing.com. We have a free ebook that gives you 10 steps. If you don't have anything on paper, it's going to walk you through 10 steps to manifest your manuscript in 60 days. So I would suggest to anyone who's hesitant on starting the writing process, get that free ebook so that you have those steps to add it to your routine to get that book down on paper. And then if you're one of those people that's saying, Erica, I hear you, but I need help. We've got plenty of help for you. We've got book coaches that will help you to manifest your manuscript. We've got ghostwriters that will literally help create it for you. So it's all about taking action, but don't delay any further because there are readers that need that story. So we got to stop procrastinating and we've got to start to get it down on paper. But the easiest way to do that is to make sure that you check out our website, shiropublishing.com, download your free ebook so that you have those steps and you know exactly how to get that done in 60 days.
Absolutely. So Erica, thank you so much for coming in on our show. Thank you so much for last night, the night before that. Thank you for gearing us up for our launch this morning and making sure that everyone was set to go. And I know I didn't sleep. I'm based on me looking at what you were doing. I don't think you slept much either, but anyway, we really, really do appreciate you. Can you tell everyone how they can reach you, provide them with your contact information?
Absolutely. And to you and all of the co-authors, we all grieve differently. Congratulations to each and every one of you. You've done a phenomenal job in peeling back the layers and sharing your testimonies and your stories. And we say hats off to you and bravo. Now, to reach Shiro Publishing, you can go to shiropublishing.com. Or you can email us at getpublished@shiropublishing.com, and our team will get back to you. We'll schedule your free 30-minute book consultation and walk you through what you need to finish your project in the next quarter. So we're excited for you. We will support anyone who needs support, and we're excited for all of your co-authors, Ladrine and Latasha, for a successful project. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And yes, huge shout out to our co-authors. Some of them are on the line now. I see Dakota is typing up something, but thank you so much, Erica, and we'll be in touch tonight or tomorrow very soon. We're connected at the hip right now, but thank you so much.
You're welcome.
So we're going to switch gears very quickly, and we are going to flip the script. So how it's always my job to interview other people, we have Reverend A. Colette Rice, who is going to flip the script, and she is going to interview Latasha and I. Reverend Rice, you ready?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm always ready.
Okay.
That was a joke, but might as well be. It's time.
Let's go.
All right. Well, listen, ladies. First of all, congratulations to this phenomenal project. And I might add that you both took your misery and turned it into ministry in real time. And I admire you for that. I am so pleased to see how God has worked through the two of you in what will probably be one of the, if not the most, one of the most difficult times in your life. And so congratulations to you and your authors for this phenomenal project. And so since it is said that our ministry becomes our misery as visionaries, what share with, we have a good sense, but share with your listeners, what was the inspiration behind the vision for this book anthology?
Yep. So I will absolutely start off and pass it over to Latasha.
Okay.
So as you said, our ministry. So with me, my whole issue with grief for years, as far as back as I can remember, in hospitals, have been horrible. And over the past couple years, just numerous deaths, but particularly on November the 17th with the passing of my mom. I remember clear as day coming home, getting out of the shower, and the Holy Spirit just whispering in my ear various things, write a book. And I'm like, write a book? Like, I'm listening like, write a book. Always try to be obedient in everything that I do, but it wasn't that easy in terms of listening. So what I did was I took out my phone and just everything that was coming to me, I would write it in my note. And one particular reason is my mom always said that I worked too much. So I made it a point not to really work as I was preparing and grieving and dealing with the things that I needed to do. But that's my simple answer. It was like, write a book on grief. It wasn't necessarily to be an anthology. And I was like, grief is not my thing. So I kept talking to myself, the Holy Spirit and everything else, because I was like, this is not my assignment. And then I openly shared it with Latasha within days. And lo and behold, she was like, I've always wanted to write a book to tell the story about my mom. So then it was she and I tag team. And then I was like, hey, let's do an anthology. And it was just on and popping from that. She said yes. And my thing, right? Let's do it. So we did it. Yeah, we did it. So that's my quick and dirty and that's it. That's it. The Holy Spirit whispered in my ear to write the book.
And that's how the Spirit works. And the beautiful thing about it is, because we talked about creativity and the necessity, because God will give us the vision, but it has to land for it to, take root and live. So Tasha, tell us where you are with that.
Yeah, so it just, I'm gonna take it back a couple of days before Ladrine's mother passed, and we were at the retreat. And Reverend Rice, you know that during the Sweatpants and Chill retreat, God was working some things out during that entire weekend.
Right.
We didn't know what was going on, but we all remained obedient and just followed whatever was going to happen next. And I just kept saying, something is going on. And each day, like, we stayed, an hour or two over just in praise and worship. So I didn't know what it was, but I knew something was going on. And so when Ladrine's mother passed, just like she was hurting, my heart was hurting for her. Right. But she was in this unexplainable peace that just amazed me. And I knew it was preparation, all that led up to that, because it wasn't just, a sudden thing. It was something that she had to be prepared for. So when she mentioned to me that she wanted to write a book, under normal circumstances, I would have said, you know what, you need to chill out. You need to mourn a little bit. You need to relax. But we had been obedient that entire weekend. I knew it was nothing but God saying, this is what needed to be done. So when she mentioned it to me, I knew when my mom passed in 2009 that there was a lot that I needed to share, that I needed to write about, not only surrounding my mother's passing, but a number of other deaths that I never dealt with. And I say it to my daughter that I don't want you to ever go 30 years without addressing your grief and your pain. And for me, that's what I did. It took me 30 years to find my way to therapy to address the grief and the pain that I dealt with so many years ago. So when Ladrine mentioned it, I'm like, all right, let's write. I was in Busch Gardens. We writing, jotting down, creating an outline for a book that we had no idea what it was going to be, what it was going to be called, nothing. And it's funny, I'm going to go back to what Erica said, where most authors come to her with a title. We didn't have a title. Right. We just knew that we had a story that we needed to share, and we were up in the air. Okay, let's make it an anthology. Let's bring other people on with us. We just didn't know what we were going to call it. And so the book kind of named itself along the way, because we kept using that phrase, we all grieve differently, and it just fell into place. Wow. So I knew that everything that led up, there were so many things that was supposed to stop us from writing this book. But this was just God. I don't know how else to explain it.
And that's how he operates. That's the thing about miracles. They're what we cannot explain. And when we think about Ephesians 20, one of my favorite passages, that he is able to do exceeding abundantly above all we could ask or think or imagine. Like I always say, our ceiling is his floor. So you're not going to get everything, but this is the key. And I think this is telling for everybody that, and I loved Miss Greene's, oh gosh, she's phenomenal. So I'm really excited about, her assignment and what God has given her. But I think it's so critical that you guys did some important things. Number one, you understood going into this project, because you two are very powerful women. Ladrine, I always tease her because, like she said, she got a plan. She got it all written down. You two, Tasha, you do planning. This is what you guys do. So you're used to having the full script. You're used to having the run of show. You're used to having it all down pat. And what you've obviously discerned in this experience is that there are going to be seasons and times when God is only going to give you enough light for the step that you're on. And it then causes you, it hems you in to really, really trust God, right? That in the deepest and difficult and even darkest moments of your life, God whispers and says, hey, in a way, you're like, oh, this is devastating. This is so drastic. But at the same time, he's saying, this is where the rubber hits the road. And if I am to you who you say that I am, then you're going to trust me to get you through this and not just barely make it, right? Not just barely make, and we sing, I'm coming in broken pieces, but no, God's desire is for us to come through victoriously. And therein gives you the testimony. So I want to ask, if you had to capture your book, the concept, by using 1 to 2 words, Ladrine, 1 to 2 words, what would they be, my friend?
You have your nerve. You don't even know how to play this or that, but I'm going to stay in row.
No, that's why I'm coming for you, because you came for me. Back at you.
If I had 1 or 2 words, my first word definitely would be impact. 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 And it's pretty much self-explanatory. So it's just the impact that I know that this book is going to make and have on other people, and the impact that it has had on me, this whole experience overall. So that is my one main powerful word. And then if I had to have a second one, it's going to be differently. That's the thing that really have stood out to me time and time again, is the various people that I've come in contact with. The limited, Reverend Rice, I really didn't talk to many people on the phone or, throughout this process. But whenever I would, someone would try to tell me how to grieve or something, and it would bother me so bad. So I chose to spend my time with God. So I did a lot of praying and a lot of self-finding. So yeah.
That's good. I'm proud of you. You did good.
Thank you.
All right, Latasha, how about you?
So the first word I would use is peace. As I mentioned, I truly admired, and I know it wasn't, and I'm saying I admired Ladrine's peace, but it was God's peace that was over Ladrine that I watched, and I've realized I needed it, because in the middle of all of this, I lost my brother. And that was one of the things where I said, you know what, I'm just not going to be able to write. I'm not going to be able to do this. But it gave me the push that I needed to get through this process, because the reality is I was writing a book to share my journey of healing. How could I not walk through that process while writing this book? Absolutely. So that peace. And then that second word is reconciliation, because there's so many things from my childhood and my past that I never got to really deal with. However, when I started writing and I started remembering and I started putting pieces together and figuring out the why behind a lot of the things that I dealt with, I've learned to forgive. I've learned to heal. And I mean, these are people that I'm no longer in contact with, that I've just learned to forgive, because I know that God has so much more work for me to do. I don't have time to hold on to other things or old things anymore, because there's so many new things that he has coming my way. So that peace and reconciliation.
Can I ask one more question? I'd like to hear from both of you briefly. Did COVID and the lessons learned through the experience, did that have any impact in any way, either subtly or overtly, in how you viewed the necessity to move forward, if you will?
So for me, it was so weird, because I hadn't really had, much that happened through COVID. I had the scare with my aunt and my cousin, but they came out fine. But in September, I started feeling eerie, and I started feeling longing for hugs and various really strange things. And I openly would talk about it. And then along came the dream about my mom. So everything that goes along the beginning part of the year, because I've been teleworking since March of last year. So everything, I'm an introvert, despite what people think. I truly am an introvert. So I really enjoyed the beginning part of the year. I really enjoyed the former part of the year. But when I started feeling that feeling in September, it just wasn't right. But it was also preparing me because I have like been in prayer for just like immensely in praying, meditating prior to my mom passing. And I really know that it was that preparation that held me. And being in COVID, having to stay in the house and not being able to move around and do anything, when it just caused me to be so obedient with God. And in the middle of the night, I would cook. And during that time, I would play my gospel music, read my word, or do whatever it was. It was just like, I've always prayed and always meditated for years, but it was just something about that quiet time. And the last piece I'll add to that is, so Reverend, you know, I've been talking about external factors. This whole thing came up of your external environment. And I even see the shift now when I'm by myself in this one-on-one with me and God. And I'm not trying to sound overly holy, but I'm just telling you my experience. It kept me in peace that no matter what happened, now that the world is opening up a little bit and it's more engagement, certain little things tick me off, whereas before it would easily slide into. So it made me become more aware, even more aware in terms of my self-awareness and how I operate when it's totally just me and God versus other external factors that are included and involved.
So there's a couple of things that are recurring themes that I hear. One certainly is peace. And you know that God declares in his word that I give you a peace that the world cannot give and the world can't take away, right? He gives us a peace that is beyond our ability, Latasha, to understand. And so when we see that peace, and God will show us whether it's, and he uses human agency, right? And so to use Greene in such an amazing way, right? That people would see, and he said, let your light shine so that people will look at you and they'll see me. You know, they're going to see me in you if you let your light shine. And to authentically, you know, allow God to work as you're going from your hurt to your healing, but also in understanding that it's always bigger than us, right? It's always so much bigger than us. When God came to Joshua and he said to Joshua, Moses, my son, is dead now. And then he said one important word, 2 words, get up. Right, and cross the Jordan. And so what that has always, reassured me of is the reality that where we are is okay. Grief is a part of our lives, right? It's a part of it's a way that we're all going to have to take. And yet in 1 Thessalonians, he says, we don't grieve as others that have no hope. See, our grief. Come on, y'all. What?
So that part right there, I'm serious. Like that part right there. When you said it like just sent chills down my bones. Tasha will know and understand a certain environment that we were in, and somebody, I'm not even going to go because I don't want to be messy with it. But someone challenged the pathway or what have you. And it was so funny to me because at the beginning, when Latasha would be like, oh my goodness, like your strength. And I would be like, Tasha, I'm telling you, like death and funerals. And I wrote it in my first book, like clearly death and funerals make me ill, make me sick. But yet I had to go through this with my mom, right? I had to go through this process with my mom. But the day before my mother's funeral, I'm on the phone with the hospital saying that my sister can't come to the funeral, hospice care, and all of these things that these words like normally cause me to just not be good at all. But I'm sucking it in, having a conversation with her, moving and shaking and doing what I need to do. And not like faking or pretending like I'm stronger than I am. I'm like, God, I kept saying over and over. It's not your
strength, though.
God, I'm weak. I'm weak.
My strength is made perfect in your weakness.
That's it.
Right?
That's
right.
it.
So don't nobody else get it. You know, God gets it.
Yeah.
Right. Which is so like,
and I'm so good with that. And I'm
yes.
so okay with that in terms of, but my balance is when people are saying, you're so strong, you're so strong. Again, I don't want to sound overly holy and everything, but I'm trying to explain to them, those who knew me, know me, cousins, family, they know it's
right.
Greene on watch at the funeral. Greene the one gonna fall out. Greene is the one gonna do that. I don't go. I didn't used to go visit people in the hospital, but God will. I know that He will build you up in terms of the timing. I was able to watch my sister, sit with her, spend the night, drive hours back and forth. That was my job every other day. I would have never, and I can tell you when she looked at me. She looked surprised, like, and I was like, yes. Right. So having time with my mom and having time with my sister, like nobody can understand the level of peace that it gave me if I knew that they were, all was well with them.
Right.
While I'm the one that's left back. Like, why would I have a worry and a concern about them at all? I found both of them looked so peacefully. So it's just a matter of trusting and having faith in God and really like getting out of the way, because all throughout the entire process, it wasn't me. It was the very things that are my weakness. That's where I know it was God, because it was a little teeny bit of me just moving and shaking and doing what I need to do, like to stay abreast. I know it was God. So that was a lesson. That's a life lesson. Like it changed my entire life, life.
And there are some things that I'm sure, as you said, that He, even in the process of that, He was healing you in spaces and places that it will progressively unfold, right?
That's part 2 book. Yeah.
My next and final question is, as God has ushered you from hurt to healing, and then given you an opportunity, not only that, because the sharing part, and Latasha mentioned the sharing, which I think is so critical, because you guys found your space and then you provided an opportunity and space for women who, now nobody will know unless you've lost your mother. Now that's all that's a whole nother show in and of itself. But if you haven't lost your mother, you just are not going to get. You can say, I can imagine, oh, wow, but you're not going to get it until you've walked that journey for yourself. And not everybody has that opportunity and space and place to articulate that. So I imagine that the other authors, and I know there'll be opportunities and spaces for them to share, that this was a pouring out and, a birthing that is unfathomable. So what would you say is the one thing that you would like for your readers to walk away thinking or feeling after they read this anthology?
Tasha, you want to go first?
Yeah, I'll jump in there. So one of the things that I've been saying during this whole process that I want people to walk away with is to understand that they're not alone. Ladrine and I started out because we lost our mothers because they passed away. But what we learned along this journey is that grief not only comes in different forms, but so does loss. And so we have co-authors in our book whose mothers have not necessarily passed away, but they lost them. And the pain and the stories behind the passion that they put into what they've shared with us. I mean, there were nights we were on calls every Thursday night to share and learn, because we had our coaching calls with the publishing company, but learning pieces of every co-author's story. I mean, we were in tears every Thursday night because it was always something different. It's like, who knew what this person was going through? And so I'll say that you never know. And we hear it, it's a cliche. You don't know what someone else has gone through, but you really don't know what someone else gone through or how they deal with it. So what may look like how Ladrine was saying, people say she's strong. I hear that same thing. You're so strong. You have no idea how much strength God has placed in me to support all of the pain he has allowed me to go through. So it's all about balance, but it has nothing to do with me.
Right. And so, Ladrine, how about you? What's the takeaway? Because we know that this is going to have. I know that the project is going to have a reverberating impact far beyond what you can imagine. But what is it that in this space and in your mind would you like to see be the takeaway from your readers?
So one of the main things for me is truth. Like everybody living your truth. Like there's so much that has come out of this that I was like, I wanted to avoid, or I wanted to prioritize in the order that I wanted to handle all of these things, because people only see what they see. But it was so much stuff just coming at me, and I was like, I can't manage all of this. But it is, at the end of the day, I wanted the truth to be lived out. And from that, everything else fell in place, because in order for me to get to that point, it was my faith in God, like in knowing that his promises that he will never leave me. So no matter if something looked like it was going to be embarrassing on behalf of something and nobody better not say, or whatever it was, my whole goal was to live in truth, and the truth shall set you free, right? So no matter what goes on, so if you take that and you combine it with God's promise, right? But then you have the faith and the discernment, and you are obedient. Like when I take the time and I step out and I look at all of the things that are going on in my life, it causes me to almost immediately like how, like what, you know what I mean? So it is that whole feeling and understanding of how it just told me and showed me how powerful God really is. And we know the song that always talk about like us not going to God, not carrying our burdens over to him in care. And when you do, because I've been the strong one for family, friends, like all different places. So it's like when you're strong, who has you, right? So it was nobody but God. So truth, faith, obedience. And I know all these words sound cliche, right? But when you really get in tune with the definition of these words and you really get it in your heart and understand it, it changes it. That when people see you, they see God. So it's not me, and I'm not going to be like da-da-da-da. I'm going to live and be that vessel for God. And I keep asking him, but why you choose me? Remember, like little dream or whatever. But I thank him. I thank him for it. And it's part your fault too, Reverend Rice, with that book that we read. I often toss that book back and forth. You know what book I'm talking about, right? Dangerous Prayers.
Oh, yeah. That's a good one. But here's the thing, and then I'm going to leave you with this, that I'm a firm believer that God doesn't waste anything. So all roads eventually are going to lead to purpose. And when you think about how, and this is the thing, when he says be faithful over a few things, like I watched how faithful you were in being a hearer of the word of God. Like I saw how committed you were 2 years ago in prayer, you know, showing up 6 a.m. every morning for morning prayer for 40 days. I watched how you stayed committed in Bible study. See, you didn't know what was going to be ahead of you. Right. You had no idea that God was fortifying you. He was all of you like God didn't have God was building all of that up in you for the journey. Like he gives us what we need for our assignments here on this earth. And this is the one thing, Latasha, why it's so critical for us to obedience is better than sacrifice, even when you don't understand it. right? Even when you don't know, all you got to do is be faithful and do what God has given you to do. No, don't be, oh, do I have to get up this early? I don't have to get up this early. That's too early to be going on over that church and da. And you think about all that God was pouring into you for what? For such a time as this. I'm done.
That's it. That's the title of my chapter.
Okay.
The title of my chapter is He Prepared Me for This.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I did not know that.
Yeah. So that's the title of my chapter. So let's go to a break really quick, and then we'll transition back. But thank you so much, Reverend Rice, for flipping the script.
Thank you for allowing me to flip the script.
Are you interested in real estate investing but not quite sure where to get started? Do you want to get the know-hows on creating ongoing passive income using the buy and hold strategy? Hi, I'm Janice Bowles, licensed realtor and co-founder of B Premier Ventures, a real estate development and consulting firm where we buy and beautify distressed real estate, renovate it, and resell for profit. With over 15 years of investing experience, B Premier has extensive knowledge in rural land development, fixing flips, and rental acquisitions. B Premier's current portfolio consists of properties within Florida and Virginia. Our firm's services includes investor project consulting, project management, and group coaching. For more information, visit our website at bpremierventures.com and schedule a complimentary discovery session or subscribe to our email list. It's free. Follow me on Instagram at Janice Bowles for additional real estate investing tips. B Premier Ventures, we buy and beautify.
Thank you, everyone. Welcome back. You took a moment to woo-saw for a moment, but wasn't the first half or the first 3/4 of the show very, very good? So thank you all for tuning in. And I see you all with your comments and everything. Tiffany. Hi, Tiffany. Tiffany is a co-worker of mine who her mom passed just after mine, and she works in HR as well. But I see everybody on the line. Minister Andre, Marcella Stretch. A lot of the co-authors are on there. Carla Sherry, Sonda Hickman, hey cuz, Dakota Saunders. I saw Reverend Smith, who you will hear from next week, as well as many other. Tina Hunter, Granny Goose, okay, Shamika Oliver, and Yarnette Reds, Shawnee. And Erica is on the line typing and doing everything. And Latasha is online too. Latasha, you doing what you do. So let's jump back into the topic. So grief, right? Grief. There's so many ways that people can think about this and look at this. So let me first start with the definition that I pulled from a couple places. And then you ladies prepare, because I'm going to ask you, what are your thoughts about the word grief? So I looked it up at a couple different places. So I even started with Wikipedia, and it describes it as grief is the response to loss, particularly to the loss of someone or some living thing that has died, to which a bond or affection was formed. Although conventionally focused on the emotional responses to loss, grief also has physical, behavioral, social, cultural, spiritual, and philosophical dimensions. And then I also looked it up on Webster. And Webster defined it as a deep distress caused by or as if by bereavement, over a death or a family member. And then this one was actually very interesting to me. I found this one on medicinenet.com, and this is the last one that I'll read. It says, the normal process of reacting to a loss. The loss may be physical, such as death, social, such as divorce, or occupational, such as job. Emotional reactions of grief can include anger, guilt, anxiety, sadness, and despair. Physical reactions of grief can include sleeping problems, changing in appetite, physical problems, or illness. So I really enjoyed the one off of medicinenet.com. So just quickly around, what do you all have? And everyone doesn't have to answer if they don't have an additional response. But does anyone have anything to add to that in terms of their feelings or their thought about grief and how it's defined? Nope. Okay. And that's fine too. So, and I just found that very interesting, and mainly, like Tasha had brought it up earlier, was that people often lead to the thought in terms of death only. They don't look at the other aspects of it. So that's why I wanted to pull that piece in. But yes, so let's go to, and that was meant to be quick on purpose, so thank you. So the next one is, this one is good. Grief comes in many forms, right? Grief comes in many forms. So we talked about that. The definition said that. So in what forms have you or others that you know faced grief? So, Co-Pastor Davida, can we start with you so we can get your voice on in here?
When I think about grief and some of my own experiences with grief, you mentioned it in your description, and it's guilt. And I remember when my aunt passed away, I was driving by her house, and I said to myself that I should stop at her house and talk to her, just to visit her. I didn't do that because I had other things that I had to do, so I kept going. And it was probably a couple days after that, and she passed away. So there was some guilt there for me for, something that I didn't do. And so I think oftentimes when we lose someone, some of those feelings of guilt can come from something that we didn't accomplish with that person, or something that we didn't say, unspoken words or actions that we didn't take. So when I think of, the description of grief, and like I said, what you mentioned, guilt comes to mind.
Mm-hmm. That's good. That's good. Latasha, how about you?
That whole the definitions that you use, I was stuck on the Medicine Net one, and I was going to chime in because the whole process of dealing with loss, the only word I can come up with is process, because I've dealt with all of that, the anger piece. I've dealt with the sleepless nights, the diet issue, all of those different things. And so, and I can attribute it to various areas of loss. But when it comes to my particular story in this book, it was a roller coaster. So I can't even give you one set definition on anything, but I definitely, that word process really stood out to me there.
That's good. That I'm not gonna add it. Oh my goodness, that's good though. That's good. Reverend Rice, can you quick cycle playing, Reverend Rice?
It's okay. It's okay. You can't tell a preacher to say something in a few words. No, actually, you really can, and we should try. But in my contribution, this is what I shared about loss. That there's grief. Can be defined, and that's the definition I had: a deep sorrow over the loss of someone or something. But it can be ascribed to a multiplicity of losses: marriage, relationships, financial security, youth, agility, vitality. We grieve so many things. You see parents who grieve the dreams that they had for their children that went unfulfilled, right? I know you have, Pastor Stewart. I mean, I've counseled so many people who are suffering grief because of the issues of life or things that you would not think normal people would be struggling with, or just not saying, okay, this is just the way that I have to take, but really having a hard time with life on a whole lot of levels, and losses as a result of tons of different kinds of experiences. So you're right, it can't be minimized to the death of a loved one. It can be lost on so many levels.
Yes, and I have to chime in on that one. Guilt. Oh my God. And not going into the story, but my high school best friend, and we had like a small little incident, and I made it into this big thing, and I was like, she's gonna learn, and then we'll be back friends, and then she'll know not to play with me anymore, or not to disrespect me, and she passed away, and I was like, oh my God, and for years, but it was the guilt. Because the thing, we could have made up, for that, but I wanted her to pay. And it was just like, oh my God, like, and that like really bothered me. And I think that's why I found peace in my mom and my sister. Like, it was nothing. Like, we have had the talks, the discussions, the everything. It was nothing. I was just like, this is God's will. And I didn't feel like, no guilt, no anything. So it was interesting when that was said.
Right. But you learned. And I think for Pastor Stewart and Ladrine, the key in everything that we do, because the road to perfection is always under construction. We are always in the process of becoming, and we learn. And that's the key. So when the Holy Spirit speaks to you, the next time the Holy Spirit, because that happened to me, Dr. Stewart, and we all can probably find our story in that, the thing that we neglected to do that God told us to do, right? So there's going to be some things that are going to be left undone. When people die, they leave stuff undone. People die with stuff on the stove that they were cooking or whatever. So things will be left undone. But if God says do it, you better do it. If God drops in your spirit and says, pick up that phone, if he says, go stop by, because we're ambassador. And sometimes you got to leave your plans for God's plans and do what God says do, right?
Yes. And that is the lesson that I learned. That is the lesson that I learned. Yes, when God speaks, listen and act. Listen and act. Absolutely.
And the other thing is, it doesn't matter how it is. I have had my moments of conservative and, that whole thing. And I would be like, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. But I have found myself doing some things that I really don't want to do in relationship to people or whatever. And I was like, no, that's embarrassing. Like, I don't want to say that. Oh, I don't want to do that. But now it's a shift thing. And I'm like,
because he's killing that pride, because pride's got to die in all of us in order for his will to be birthed in us. So trust
me when I tell you I know.
I know you know. It's a hard lesson, but it's one you learn.
Yes, absolutely. So this right here is the main question of our whole show, because it rings so directly into it. And we all grieve differently. And so with this, my question is, what are your thoughts and experiences around this topic? So Latasha, let's start with you.
Well, since it's almost past my bedtime, I could go a whole lot longer.
Almost past your bedtime. It's 8:34.
But
it is past your bedtime.
It is. I'm looking at the clock. I keep glancing down at the time.
Oh,
but everything. I mean, the book is about, the story that I have in the book is about my mom. But grief, I've dealt with it. I've dealt with so many different forms of loss and never knew how to actually deal with it. So I can say I dealt with it by getting through it, but I never really learned how to deal with it all. And really sitting down and writing my chapter in this book, which I literally did in a few hours. I knew the story because the story is mine. So I knew everything that I needed to say and I wanted to say, but I never knew how to get it down on paper. And so I sat for a couple of hours, one of those sleepless nights that we talked about, and I just wrote. And I realized that was one of my coping mechanisms when I was younger, because I used to write a lot of poetry, and I used to do that when I was going through some things, and I stopped doing it because I didn't realize that it was actually a healing tool for me. I looked at it as opening up wounds, and the reality is I needed to open up some wounds so that I knew how to heal in those places, because I just put a bandage over some things that never really got the full attention it needed to heal. So getting older, growing through that, and learning how to actually deal with some things definitely has helped me a lot. And I mentioned at the beginning that there were a lot of obstacles that tried to stop us along this journey. Writing this book helped me deal with that peace that I learned during this process, the strength that I gained during this process. Again, it was all God, but it was all on time. Never knew what I needed, but I just know that God delivered it when I needed it.
That's it.
Wow. That's good.
First Lady, co-pastor, how about you?
In the book, in my foreword, I described grief to me as like a chameleon, and it looks different on who it's attached to. And then it looks different depending on the person's relationship, with the one that they lost, or the thing that they lost, or the situation that they lost. And there is no cookie cutter cure for grief. And I was listening to you, Tasha, talking about what you did to cope. And that's what we all have to do. We have to find what works for us to get us through and to get us to the next place, to take us through that valley. We have to find what works for us as individuals. So there are people who, Greene and I have talked about it before, who will say, oh, you don't need that, counselor, you don't need to do this. You know what I mean? They're trying to put you in a box in terms of how you deal with the grief. But there is no one way to deal with the grief. And like I said, it looks different on who it's attached to. So each one of us has to figure out what we need to do to get through. And so that's what I think about when I think about how we manage our grief and how we make it to the next level and literally just make it from day to day. Yeah.
And that is so important. And I love how you phrase that, because our book project, whereas we have asked the contributors from your experience and your counseling to provide that impact, the duties and responsibilities of each one of the authors was to tell their story, and tell their experience. And even as we were going through and everybody was telling their stories, people could relate, just us and within our group. And they would be like, I had that, different things in terms of their mother dying of a broken heart because they witnessed their parents die. Just so many different things in terms of the way that that people handle them individually. So even though my process is what it is, and my process would not be really how to grieve, it would be trusting in God, So everybody has something that comes out of it. Grief counselors are trained to do, and Reverend Smith will be on next week, but the grieving sessions at Mount Eden every month, like I've been in those 3 years ago, like prior to my mom, and it was in the midst of that, and of course preaching and teaching and everything around it, where it described like we're all going to leave someday. And at first I was like, man, I don't want to hear that, you know what I mean? And then when you really get stuff into your spirit, so I'm going to cut right there. But my whole point is to say, our duty and responsibility as the co-authors in this book was to tell our story. And the stories are so powerful, but at the end of them, we provide tips from our experience. So just wait until y'all get the book. It is amazing how it came together in terms of the template and the idea that Tasha and I were playing with while she was at an amusement park. I'm like, you playing? No, I'm playing. So Reverend Rice, what are your thoughts?
Actually, mine are very much in line with Pastor Stewart's in that I think it's important for all of us to acknowledge that each loss is going to, as she said, there's no cookie cutter. Each loss is going to take you to a different place. The grief I experienced when I lost my father and didn't love him any less than I loved my mother was totally different than the grief that I experienced when I lost my mother. I think at the end of the day, it's also important that we realize that we have to. And I say in my piece that grief is going to insist that you sit up and take notice. Now, that's one of the things you're going to have to do. Yeah. You can try and skirt around and skip around and dance around and sing around it, play around it, preach around it, write around it, and all of that. But you are going to have to come face to face with your grief and acknowledge it for what it is. And then remember this piece, that it's a place that you can go, but it's not a place that you can stay. That God's desire is for us, like he told Joshua, get up and cross over the Jordan. Get up. And you're gonna get up and you're gonna still take 7 years later. I will sit here on any given day and may just say, dang, I miss my mama. I might have a thought. And I figure out ways. Ladrina and I talk about it. We deal with it. You know, I may cook. I may sing a song. I may have a memory. I may have something. But I'm always going to do what's going to bring me hope. Like, I'm not going there to go down. I'm going there to be lifted up. I don't even celebrate the day that they died anymore. I don't do graveyards. I don't do any of that because I know they're not there. And what I do is I'm celebrating Mother's Day and I'm celebrating birthdays. And that's how I honor the legacy. I go with the gift that God has given and embrace that and just hold on to all of those pieces. And when you do, you'll find the hope that you need, as Paul promises in Thessalonians. We don't grieve as others that don't have any hope. We have hope. And that's what I believe this project does. So congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you both. And you will be coming back on in the upcoming weeks. So thank you for not giving away all of your stuff that you wrote.
Just hush, right?
I appreciate that. But we have a lineup where all of the authors are going to come on and give you a not a snippet. They're going to have a good amount of time to give you an overview of the big picture of their stories. When I tell you, you don't want to miss any of them, because all of them have a shock factor that's going to leave your mouth dropped. So I love how it's intertwined with the one that had the lovey-dovey and the only thing they have are great things about their mom. Then there's the one who never knew her mom. But, so it's so many things. So I just want to say kudos to all of the co-authors, Carla Sherry, Crystal Marble, Davetta Henderson, Dakota Saunders, Diane Jackson, Diota Renee Sweat, Latasha Briscoe, Louise Harley, Ladrine Howard Peterson, Monica Best, Tanja Brown, and Vincent and Lisa Curry. That's going to be, we have a treat for the men next week. If you have time to tune into the show, it's something for everybody, but Vincent and Lisa Curry, amazing story. And I'm so glad that we got to, even though you won't see his pictures on the flyers, his wife penned his story. Amazing. So ladies, thank you all so much. Now, I'm going to do this, but you have to really, and Latasha and co-pastor, I'm not really talking to y'all. I'm really talking to Reverend A. Colette Rice. When we do this, we need to go through quickly, all right? So this or that.
I'm gone. Okay.
This or that, very quickly. So this or that.
Reverend Rice, come on.
Seafood or pasta?
Say it again.
Seafood or pasta?
Seafood.
Seafood.
And what did you say, co-pastor?
I said seafood.
Seafood all the way. What are y'all saying online? Put y'all's. And then the next one, nachos or popcorn?
Popcorn.
Yeah, popcorn.
Nachos.
Nachos. I have a popcorn machine. I eat popcorn all the time. The next one, are you a lefty or a righty?
I'm a lefty.
Oh.
Everybody else right? Everybody else right. You wrong. So I'm playing Reverend Rice.
I'm a lefty. Lefties rule the world, girl.
So you think, no, I'm playing. And then the next one is obedience or sacrifice.
Obedience.
I'm learning obedience.
Obedience.
I sure hope so. And then last but not least, chocolate or vanilla.
Chocolate all day.
That's hard. It depends.
All right, well then what kind of ice cream do you like?
Oh, vanilla.
Oh, vanilla ice cream.
Vanilla ice cream.
Okay.
Yeah.
Chocolate
But
everything.
a chocolate chip cookie.
Yeah.
Chocolate candy.
See, yo, I'm sorry, I did not specifically say ice cream, but I was talking about ice cream. But thank you all so much. Please make sure you put your information in the feed so that they can know how to get in contact with you. And then when you have your time when you speak coming up, we'll make sure that you provide your information and you can create something else because you pretty much no, I'm playing. I love you all and I appreciate you for being on. And thanks everyone. Make sure that you follow our show on all social media platforms. Make sure that you tune in and engage. So this one was a little hard to engage, but the other ones, they will be telling their stories, all of the co-authors. So it's going to be some very engaging discussion. So everybody on the line, Vanilla's beat in obedience, and Reverend Rice, you're somebody else said Lefty's rude. So you and her are alone.
See, you was trying to go there. I know. Stop coming for me.
It's one. It's 1 out of 20.
You better stop coming for me.
So it's 2 out of 23.
1 out of 20 that says something.
And I can't see nachos and seafood one. So thank you all so much. Show has been great and I'm excited. I need to go and get some sleep. So the book. So we have a flyer for the book. Each individual person, that's us and our little crew, each individual person on the on their main page, they'll have their information. So please make sure you go to the author that you know and support them. Even though we're tagging each other pages, be careful to make sure that you are making the purchase from that person. Latasha and I did this as a part of our charitable donations and different things like that. So our goal is not to become rich off of this project. We really want people to get healed. So make sure that you are supporting the appropriate author. And that's it. Make sure that you follow us on YouTube, upcoming shows, all the rest of this month except for the last one. The money-making money, they're going to switch to the last one. But we're going to have authors coming on, and we're going to have our spiritual leaders come back, the contributors. And then at the end, we're going to have a powerful show because we're going to talk about resources, and we're just going to dig in a little bit more. But each one of them will be engaging where you will be able to talk to them. And I think that concludes everything that I have. Oh, Reverend Rice, your birthday's coming up, so happy pre-birthday. Happy pre-birthday. So thank you all so much. Thank you all for tuning in, and good night. God bless.
Good night. Thank you.